loves, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. It is so great to have you. This is future me popping in here and doing an intro because I forgot to do an intro for this video. I was too excited to show you all my bookshelves clearly. Anyway, this is just future me popping in saying enjoy my bookshelf tour. This has been long overdue, and as I explained in the video, I have two bookshelves. I have one here in my apartment and one back home at my parents' house, so that is why this has been such a long awaited video, because it was a two-parter combined into one. Anyway, let's get into it. I basically have two bookshelves. I have this bookshelf, which consists of this down here, over there, and up there. And you may be thinking, Freya, why are they such randomly placed unique bookshelves? Well, my dad very much supported my book buying addiction in high school, throughout my entire high school actually. And this is pretty much my collection of books since I have started reading. So I'd say since I was about 10 when I seriously started reading. So I have these shelves at my parents' house, and then of course I have the shelves that you see in all of my videos in my apartment. So this is going to be a fun little video because it's going to be a two-parter. I'm going to be showing you, well, two parts, but all in one. I am going to be showing you this bookshelf, and I'm going to be going through all of my classic fantasy books. This is probably my biggest fantasy collection, and then we're going to be going back to Melbourne, and then we're going to do an apartment bookshelf tour. So anyway, without further ado, I think we should get started. We've got some interesting lighting going on, but we'll start at the top. So at the top, I obviously have my Wheel of Time series. So this is probably, it is my biggest fantasy series. I haven't finished it, before you ask. I'm about halfway through it. And the Wheel of Time, I just absolutely love. I think Robert Jordan is an amazing writer, and I think the fact that Brandon Sanderson took on for the end of the series after he passed just makes so much sense. Such a great epic fantasy series. So that is the top shelf. Again, this is my entire fantasy collection. So we have the Lord of the Rings. We have a few different copies of the Lord of the Rings. The House in the Cerulean Sea up here, I don't know why. And then we have the Game of Thrones series. Moving down here, we have my Harry Potter shelf and kind of more classic shelf. Classics. So we've got my entire Harry Potter series. This is a different edition. And then I have two of the traditional covered books. You'll notice throughout my bookshelf as well, I have all these little trinkets. I don't know why. I'm a trinket bookshelf kind of girl. Like my Harry Potter wand, Fleur Delacour's wand. I'm a big Potterhead, so I'm just gonna roll with that. I then have Fantastic Beasts. We then have Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and then my little Hunger Games collection, so Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and the three books in the Hunger Games. Moving down to the bottom shelf, original covers of the Percy Jackson. These are over here at the moment because they're pretty new to my collection. Yeah, this is the first kind of matching spines box edition. Then have all my Cassandra Clare. So we've got the first three books in the Mortal Instruments series. I would always read at the library. So some of my books, I only have the first few in a series or the last book in the series, like Chain of Thorns. We then have Lady Midnight, Daughter of Smoke and Bone, Discovery of Witches. We then have Land of Stories, which is one of my most favorite fantasy young adult series. I love it. More Rick Riordan. So the Heroes of Olympus series, probably my favorite series. So that is my first shelf. Now we're gonna move down to here. This lighting is god awful, so I'm just gonna hold the camera. We have my Stephenie Meyer collection, so all of the Twilight series along here, as well as The Host by Stephenie Meyer. We also have Crave, so this is kind of my vampire shelf, and then we just have a few little lone fantasy books that needed a place to be. So Night Angel Nemesis and The Lost Bookshop. Moving along, this bookshelf kind of morphs into more mixed genres because there's a little bit of everything in here, as you'll see. So we have a few books up the top, like The Hating Game, and then we have some non-fiction books about Fitzgerald. He's one of my favorite authors. We have some historical fiction, the Twisted series, the first two, not big fan, and some more fantasy towards the end here, including Miss Peregrine's. Love that book. And then down the bottom is, again, a little bit more messy, but we have all of my non-fiction books. So we've got a lot of biographies, A Diary of Anne Frank, one of the most emotional reads I have ever read. And then along here we kind of have more thriller books. So we've got The Cuckoo's Calling, some Linda LaPlate books, The Fifth Room, Gone Girl, Stephen King, The Last Thing He Told Me, We Were Liars, The Thief Lord, and then Two Little Fantasies. The shelf is double lined. So there are some more books towards the back, but they're nothing absolutely incredible, you can kind of see. We then move on to these bookshelves. These are my favorite bookshelves. So this one is pretty much all my YA and romance books. Here are the only two special edition books I have, at least here. They're just are they the Penguin hardback copies? I think they are, of The Secret Garden and Anne of Green Gables. I love these books. I think they're so cute. I then have two Beth O'Leary books, The Road Trip and The Flat Chair. Coming down here we have more romance, Mad About You, One Last Stop, Love in the Time of Serial Killers, The Soulmate Equation, and The Hardest Fall. Just some kind of cute fluffy kind of romances. Down here we've got some like more YA books, I would say. My two Colleen Hoover books that I own, the only two I own. So we have Verity and Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, and then we have the first two books in the Inheritance games, and Wild and Wicked Things, which is like a YA fantasy standalone. Highly recommend. Down here we have the Good Girls Guide to Murder trilogy, one of my favourite YA trilogies, along with the Spanish Love Deception. We then have the Truly Devious trilogy, Rebecca and the Princess Bride, two of kind of my favourite little classics. We have the first three books in the Shadow Me series, Arana, and then down the bottom are duplicates of my Sabriel series. They were actually like my brother's copies and I just keep them on my shelf. Up the top here, obviously you can't see it in this view, but you will be able to in a second. We have some little classics. So we've got the Robin Hobb series. These are like the first published Robin Hobb books. We then have some more Garth Nix and the traditionally published Aragon series. My brother and sister made it really easy for me to get all the traditionally published versions of my favorite series, so that was very cool. Up the top here, again, very difficult for you to see, but we have all of my kind of YA young adult books that kind of like just shaped my childhood. So we have like the Friday Barnes series, the Light series, Choose Your Own Adventure kind of series, Girl Online, love it, and just a few little fantasy series thrown in there. So that is my bookshelf tour for this portion. Now we are going to go back to Melbourne and I will show you the rest of my shelf. I'm back in my apartment in Melbourne, so it is time to do the part 2 of this bookshelf tour. This bookshelf is like jam-packed and overflowing. I have books off the bookshelf because I just cannot fit anymore. Do I need to get a new bookshelf and just try and fit it into my small apartment? Probably yes. Will I do that anytime soon because I don't want to have to move another bookshelf out when I do move from this apartment? Anyway, that's not the point. This is my second bookshelf. We have a little one down here, and then we have my main one here, and then a few books piled just over there. A few of these books I will say are my boyfriend's books, just on this shelf, but the rest are mine. We start out with romance, fantasy, more fantasy down here, and some more romance down there, as well as like some classics scattered throughout. So I'm gonna start at the top shelf here. This is like kind of my favorite shelf. So we start with the Magnolia Park series, one of my all-time favorite romance series. We have the first 4 books in the traditional covers, and then the 5th book is up here in like the new covers. I just have this one because I was sent this one. It's like an art copy. We then have the traditionally published covers of the Binding 13 series, and then the first 2 books in the Binding 13 series. These ones are the indie published versions. I got them before it was traditionally published. Behind this plant we have my Emily Henry collection. So we have my Arc of Funny Story, Happy Place, Book Lovers and Beach Read, and then on the end here we have Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. The top shelf is kind of like my romance favorites. Moving down here, we have a few series. So we've got all of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books stacked up here. She is like one of my favorite romance authors, standalone romance authors. Then we have the first 3 books in the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver. Love that series, need to finish it. We then have Wild Love by Elsie Silver, Happily Never After. I know this is a little bit scattered. I usually am like pulling out these books for book recommendations, so that's why. The 2 kind of bigger covers of Taylor Jenkins Reid's, Harry Saunders Back and Malibu Rising. We then have some Ali Hazelwood with Bride and Love Theoretically, The 7-Year Slip, The Icebreaker and Wildfire Duet, the Knockmount series by Lucy Score, Red, White and Royal Blue, and the first book in the Addicted series, which is something I also need to get into more. I've only read the first book. Coming down here, this is a very jam-packed fantasy shelf, as is the next one. We have this little stack, a bunch of just random fantasies, like we've got Lord of the Rings, Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, Sabriel, The Obsidian Tower, an Arc of the Book of Doors, The Shadow of the Gods, Red Rising, The Scarlet Veil and Priory of the Orange Tree. We then have Terrasil and Eleanor, The Crimson Moth Arc, my entire Grishaverse by Leigh Bardugo, the Shadow King Duet, When the Moon Hatched. This is a new edition and new favorite, but I haven't found a proper home for it yet, so it's just sitting up here for now. Obviously on this bookshelf, as you've seen, I have lots of little like decorative cutesy kind of things on it because I love that kind of stuff. And then I also have little like Harry Potter chocolate frog cards all over my bookshelf because They're fun. For my next fantasy shelf, we are down here. This shelf is a lot of my series, just more fantasy in general and a few sci-fi. So on this little stack, we've got a whole bunch of things really. We've got some Brandon Sanderson, Ninth House, A River Enchanted, Champion of Fate, Renegades, and Name of the Wind. So a whole kind of array of fantasy, not one particular genre. Here we have the traditional covers of the Dune series and then the first book in the Fraser trilogy by Robin Hobb. We then have my Dark Shade of Magic trilogy, the first book in Akane by Lynette Noni. The other one is over there because I am currently reading it. And Whisper, also by Lynette Noni. The Warm Hands of Ghosts, another Brandon Sanderson, and then the Mirror Sitter series, one of my favorite fantasy romance series. And then down the very bottom is a kind of whole mix of things. We'll go over it very, very quickly. Quite a few more fantasies like Study in Drowning, The Raven Boys. We have a few thrillers, the reappearance of Rachel Price, Agatha Christie, and then this stack is quite a few of my boyfriend's books. So just a lot of random stuff in that one. As I said, this top shelf is a lot of my boyfriend's books as well as like some classics. So we have kind of all of his like Japanese authors up here, including like Murakami. We have some classics like Lord of the Flies and Catch-22, and then we have all of our Penguin classics here, as well as some Gabrielle Zevin books up there. They're both of ours. And then down here, this is like my favorite shelf. This is like my everything shelf. This is like my big fantasy shelf, my favorites, if you will. We start off with Powerless and the Dance of Thieves duology, moving on to the kind of Stephanie Garber universe. So we've got Caraval in the paperback, the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, and then the hardback covers of Caraval. My everything. I love them so much. They are so pretty. I also have my other Ollivanders one here that I got from Universal Studios. I love it so much. The Divine Rivals duology, Daughter of No Worlds, Serpent in the Wings of Night, some Cassandra Clare, and then we've got a little stack going on here with some Olivia Blake, The Jazzed Air, Dragon Rider, and the 2 books in the Fourth Wing series. Down the bottom is like the most random area. It is just a whole mess of stuff, if I'm honest. So again, a little skim through. We have some Dolly Alderton, Mariana Zapata. I have more literary fictions and non-fiction, so like A Little Life, and then we have Everything I Know About Love, and then all the rest of the books are my boyfriend's books, a lot of plays, classics, Pride and Prejudice, all that kind of stuff. And lastly, over here we just have my Sarah J Maas stack, as well as Bruta Prince, Clockwork Angel, and Heir of Broken Kingdom by Mads Rafferty. And that is my full completed bookshelf tour, finally. I hope you guys enjoyed. It was great to finally show you. It's been on my to-do list for a while. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you in my next vlog.